Thanks again for hopping on today, Wendy. Super excited to talk to you about your business and kind of what got you to this place. But to kick it off, like we do for most interviews, would love to just introduce you to the Athletes Untapped audience, have people get to know more about your background. So I guess if you can walk through your early days, your own athletic background, and what got you to this point, we'd love to learn more about you.
Great. Yes, Jean and Matt, thank you so much for having me. My name is Wendi Irlbeck. I'm a registered dietitian, certified sports nutritionist. I have a master's in food and human nutritional sciences. I love nutrition. I don't just like it. I absolutely love it. In fact, I fell in love with nutrition when I was around 11 years old. And so I actually kept a journal with a pen and paper. Most kids these days won't even know what that is because they have the apps. But I truly began logging my nutrition and just realizing that there were certain foods and the amount of calories that I was eating. I used Ask Jeeves at the time. I know kids won't know what that is, but it's like Google, right? You guys probably know what it is.
Yeah,
Uh,
I remember. I remember.
so I use that to just get an understanding. Again, 11 years old, access to dial-up internet, just figuring out what I could do because I loved nutrition and I also was an athlete. I ran cross country in high school. I played softball. I played college softball. But as a kid, I grew up in southeastern Minnesota and doing farm chores, lots of rock picking, lots of time out in the sun. And so I definitely acknowledged hydration mattered. So drinking water, eating foods like carbohydrates before those long 8-hour rock picking shifts. I know a lot of people don't really understand what rock picking is, but you're essentially walking and picking up rocks and throwing them into a wagon. The weightlifting, it does translate into sport. So I share that because that's actually been a big part of my foundation and discipline is doing chores, feeling good, right? That sense of accomplishment, that exertion, the endorphins that are released when you do hard things, literally. And so I grew up with a single dad, and my siblings and I, we had to figure out a lot on our own. And so that's why I'm really passionate on social media, talking to parents, coaches, athletes, getting them into a routine in the morning, teaching them that if they actually take 5 minutes and prioritize their breakfast the night before, they can grab that and take that to school. So I did that as a kid. And so throughout my high school career, I loved talking to my teammates about nutrition and specifically going into why I wanted to be a dietitian was I made so many mistakes in my cross country career. In fact, a specific example, I passed out in my anatomy class because I didn't eat enough carbs. I didn't eat breakfast that day. I fell asleep during an exam. My blood sugar was low, of course. And so I think, yeah, I mean, it was fine. I just fell over in my desk and everyone's like, you just did that because you didn't want to take the test, right? But, I mean, coincidence, but,
Yeah, maybe.
I went to the nurse and I felt so stupid and silly because I was like, wow, that really did matter. That did affect me. And so it is my mission to not allow others to make those same mistakes and to teach them that carbohydrates are not the enemy. They are your energy and you need a lot more carbs if you're a runner, you're an endurance athlete. And so just fell in love with the process and helping coaches, parents, like I said, not make those mistakes because in today's world, coaches and even parents, they have the best intent, but I think that we have put so much pressure on these kids to perform and to be elite. And I say that a lot too. But the reality is if we actually emphasize nutrition, sleep, hydration, and recovery, these kids would be better. They'd have more confidence. They would perform better. They would also be less prone to injury. So it's kind of, as you can tell, I'm passionate, but I just really think that when I look back and reflect on the things that I did wrong, and now that I have the knowledge and expertise, I can share that and, leave people, places, and things better than when I found them. So I'm very passionate about helping these parents also get credible information, knowing that if you're playing multiple sports, you're going to need to consume additional protein, carbohydrates. Even I have my creatine monohydrate here. This is something that I wish I would have known about when I was a student athlete because it is so beneficial. It's something that you can get obviously in meat. And I didn't eat a lot of meat as a kid. I ate a lot of carbs. I ate way too many carbs, and not quality carbs like cereal. So anyway, I could rant about that, but I think there's a lot of really good value and just going back to the basics and eating 3 to 4 balanced meals, getting 7 to 9 hours of sleep and hydrating and skipping energy drinks, no energy drinks. We didn't have those, growing up. And I think that there's a lot of scary things happening in that industry right now too.
Well, my wife is not gonna like this one. She loves the energy drinks, so I'm gonna
No.
show her this. But she'll laugh and say I probably should cut them out. Honestly, I can tell it's gonna be such a good chat. We can like feel the passion for what you do, just like coming through the computer here. So I'm excited to keep it going. I guess one thing I wanted to dive into, because a lot of our audience is young athletes who want to play in college and parents who want to help their kids get there. So maybe nutrition side of it working into it. But when you were a college athlete, what was that experience like for you, and how did that kind of shape who you are today?
Absolutely. So, Jean, I actually didn't know that I wanted to play in college. I went back and forth on it just because I knew that the schedule was demanding, being, in high school playing multiple sports. And I wanted to make money. I also wanted to be a personal trainer. So I only played 1 year of college softball. And when I transferred to UW Stout to do my degree in dietetics, I was going to play. But then, of course, being a pitcher, my shoulder just didn't hold up. We always say that, right? Our glory days, it's because my shoulder, but no, I did the 1 year and I loved it. I loved the time with my teammates and really just building up to that. For me, I've always loved being an athlete. I love competition. I'm a very competitive person and I just loved, the training, the weightlifting. I loved being with my teammates. And so the work was put in since I was 11 years old. I would say my farm girl country upbringing actually set me up for success because I was disciplined. I respected the schedule, routine, show up on time. You're part of a team. It's not about you. It's about collectively, right? The entire organization. And so I would say to kids and parents out there, if you want to play at the next level, the things you need to do are to show up every day with a positive attitude and make it about what you're going to contribute to others. How can you be a good teammate? Practicing, being consistent, getting your quality sleep. And one thing I would say too is if you spend time with the wrong people in high school, it will completely divert you from your success in college, not only academically, but in athletics. And so I share that because there's a lot of really talented athletes out there, right, that are not working hard because they're talented. And so they spend time with the wrong people. They get into drugs, alcohol. They miss out on scholarships. Their grades start to suffer. So that's a part of it too, right? It's not just the nutrition, the training part of it. It's spending time with the right people. And I think that there's a lot of kids that are misled because parents are so busy these days. So it's so important to be a good teammate because you never know. You could be saving another teammate from making a mistake and getting in with the wrong crowd of people. And so I speak from specific experience myself. I spent some time with some of the wrong people that were not in sports in high school, and they kind of pulled me away from it. So I feel like I could have been more successful as an athlete. And again, any level is great. I played JUCO softball. We took fourth in the nation at RCTC. It was a great experience. But I feel like if I could have gone back and done it differently, I likely would have spent my time a bit more wisely and surrounded myself with the right people, because they absolutely influence your future. And so I know there's a lot of great quotes out there about, look at the 5 people that are in your circle. You're going to become them if you don't like them. So I just think there's not a lot of conversations about that. So I want to bring that up too, because most parents think that I had this straight and narrow path, and I most certainly didn't. And finding Christ too. I would say that if you want to be an amazing athlete and you want to be successful in anything that you do, put Jesus first. In Matthew 6:33, but first seek the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things will be added to you. God wants to use you. If you say yes, he will help you be successful. He will give you the desires of your heart. I just know there's a lot of amazing athletes that are talented, but they will be outworked by someone that is going to bed early. They're drinking their water. They're avoiding alcohol, vaping, tobacco, right? Those athletes are absolutely amazing. And so they will outpace the talent. And we see it every day in, at the D1 level and even in professional sports, right? How many amazing gifted athletes that had it all right and they just blew it by making poor decisions. And then you got these other kids, right? And they're working hard. So I just empower you, be consistent every day, keep showing up. And just remember too, whether you're playing at the D1 level or JUCO, every opportunity to play is a gift and blessing because you never know when your career is going to end. Not everybody will play in college. So seize every day and enjoy it and just be present, be where your shoes are.
What's the message you would tell parents and kind of like landmines to watch out for into? I know it's a big thing about kids are always playing on so many travel teams, and it's like maybe too much on that side and less in the local,
Mm-hmm.
or training is like too hyper specific, or again they're not looking out enough for their nutrition. Like, what's the one message you would say to parents that, hey, if you follow these things, or if you like stick to this path, Not that there's a guarantee your kid will play in college or be a pro athlete. Everyone knows that's not a possible, it's not a possibility
Right.
guarantee. But how would you address parents today that are wondering like how can I keep my kid on the straight path through youth sports because it is a crazy world now?
Yes. How we speak to our athletes and the parents is a second breakfast, first breakfast, obviously 3 to 4 balanced meals with protein, carbs, healthy fats. I think there's too large of an emphasis on supplements and protein powders, and kids are not eating real food. They're not getting their protein from eggs, beef, chicken, steak, fish. And that's a huge missed opportunity because those protein sources contain leucine, which drive muscle protein synthesis and protect bone density as well. So that reduces your risk of injury. When you're training at a high level and you're, 20 plus hours of training, you need to be eating whole foods because supplements are not going to guarantee the same critical nutrients for building muscle and bone. And so, Jean, another part of that too is packing protein and carbs before and after training. You should be consuming anywhere from 25 grams of protein to 50 grams of carbohydrates 2 hours pre-workout and then post-workout consuming carbs and protein. And so part of the nutrient strategy that I came up with, right, not making those mistakes, it doesn't guarantee that your kid will continue to play at the next level, but it absolutely will get them closer than it would if they did nothing, right? And so chew, nibble, sip is the 4-2-1 chewing, nibbling and sip fueling strategy. I talk about that a lot because if I would have known that, I would have been faster likely. I probably would have had more power, speed, strength, and endurance as a pitcher on the mound if I would have consumed some of those foods in the right quantities at the right time, right? And so I have this on the website. You can go to the blog. There's videos. We have a health and performance playbook. But that is the best way to time your meals and snacks. And I've worked with pro athletes, I've worked with college athletes, and they tell me all the time, Jean, gosh, I wish I would have known this when I was younger. I wish I would have known that, having something 2 hours before is going to be better than not eating anything, right? No energy, no fuel in the tank. You're going to stall out. And we know the time to exhaustion is much quicker without sufficient carbohydrates. So for every hour of activity, a simple thing you could do is carbs, right? 30 to 60 grams for every hour of training. And that can look like a honey stick, applesauce, handful of grapes, half of a bagel. Those are basic fundamental things that kids are not doing consistently. So going to just answer your question directly, consistency over intensity. Too many people are trying new things every week. If they would have just stuck with the basics, 3 or 4 balanced meals, according to the plate I talked about, protein and carbs before and after training, 100 ounces of fluid, add in your creatine monohydrate, get 7 to 9 hours of sleep. More is obviously better. If kids could get 9 to 11, that would grossly reduce the risk of injury and help with recovery. They would be very successful. But unfortunately, we're not doing that right now because a lot of kids are on screens. And so I want to, I empower any parent. I'm not a parent myself, but I will say this. You have time to put together meals and snacks. You are on your phone over 5 hours a day. So don't tell me that you want to gain weight or that you want to get better, but you're unwilling to pack your breakfast, bring your water bottle, do some of these fundamental things. Until you're willing to do that, you are your own worst enemy, right? Don't self-sabotage.
I love that.
That's a really good point. And Wendi, one of the things you'd mentioned, and a lot of younger athletes, I know when I was in high school, I wanted to be able to, take protein supplements and those things. I had trouble gaining weight. I was very thin. But I do see a lot of athletes that are, I'm going to take protein. I'm not going to eat a full meal. How important are supplements, and how should young athletes be using those? Because I think a lot of parents don't really know either, like what type of supplements they should be doing and which ones are safe.
Great question, Matt. And so supplements by nature are meant to supplement the gaps. And so I already gave through, if I went through a full meal plan, like very easy, eggs, berries, almonds, peanut butter toast, do a second breakfast of Greek yogurt with a banana, lunch, grilled chicken sandwich. Those are basic fundamental meals. You should be eating those. Supplements are meant to supplement the gap. So when you have a kid that's training, 20 plus hours per week, that's where protein powders come in. You can mix a protein, a third party tested, it's got to be third party tested, NSF approved. Otherwise, it could have a proprietary blend that doesn't even contain the amino acids. It also could have heavy metals. It could be detrimental to your health. And so I always tell parents and athletes this, that until you're eating 3 to 4 balanced meals, your supplement is not going to really do anything for you. It's like rearranging furniture on a sinking ship, right?
Yeah.
And so critical that I'm not against supplements, but my job, right, is to get kids and parents and everyone eating full balanced meals. And then we can figure out what supplements are necessary based on their individual needs. And so some of the common nutrient deficiencies among teen athletes, protein is one of them because kids are not eating meals, but also magnesium, zinc, and calcium. And so if we had 3 servings of dairy per day, that's also a myth that annoys me, is that people think that dairy is bad. And so I just share that because if we actually did cottage cheese, Greek yogurt, string cheese, you actually wouldn't need to do a whey protein because you're getting the whey, right? The dairy protein. And so I share that because supplements, again, I'm not against them, but I would ask the question first, well, what are you eating for breakfast? What are your meals like? How much training are you doing? And then we can say, yes, whey protein, creatine, vitamin D3, magnesium, zinc, electrolytes, if it's necessary. I think there's a lot of people that they're always quick to go, well, what supplement should I have? When the reality is your question should be, what should I be eating before and after training? What should I be eating for breakfast on game day? Those are much better questions because those are the meals and snacks that are actually going to optimize your speed, strength, power, and performance output.
And I think some of the issue with younger athletes too, if they don't really know where to go to find this information. I know when I was in high school, I'm going to GNC and I have no idea what I'm looking at. There's 100 products, 100 things
Right.
you can look at, and the people at GNC, I don't know how reliable they are in giving you that information. One of the other questions, I know we talked a lot about, how you played softball in college, you did cross country in high school. We have a lot of young athletes that want to play in college. You had a lot of knowledge before you got to college, it seems like, which was very beneficial. Some athletes don't. Were your coaches, did you feel like you had nutritional guidance when you were playing softball, or did you kind of have to figure it out on your own?
I love that you brought that up. I'm going to answer your question, but to go back to the weight gain, 'cause a lot of people are trying to gain weight, and I think this is valuable. So I have several weight gain videos, blogs that are out there for information for people that don't want to go to GNC, but you want it from a credible expert. I like to think I know a thing or two, but and I've helped thousands of kids gain weight. So add in 500 calories extra per day from where you're at, and you can do that through peanut butter, a double portion of rice and chicken, just simple, right? Start with the basics. When you try to gain weight too quickly, you end up getting sick and you quit and give up. So if you just journal your nutrition, just like I did, I learned so much by just being my own experiment. And so kids need to know their baseline and where they're at, and then add in an extra serving of chicken and rice. Like I said, you can also add peanut butter to a smoothie. Extra calories consistently over time, right? 500 per day gets you to about a pound per week. And it's very easy if you just stick with it and stay consistent. And so you don't need the weight gainers. You can gain weight with quality nutrients and food that actually build muscle. Okay. And then to answer your question, getting information. So here's one thing. I just spoke to the University of Chattanooga at Tennessee athletes about this. I said that my coaches would say, have candy before a workout, right? Or a run because it's quick sugar. I disagree with that. And here's why, because those artificial sweeteners and, sugar is sugar, but when you're getting sugar and carbs and vitamin C and antioxidants from a handful of grapes versus a Jolly Rancher, very different, especially how it's digested. And I do think that that's something that I hear a lot is that, we did that in high school as well. Have some quick candy before your workout or before the race or before the game. That gave me a stomach ache. And so I realized that when I was in high school. And so Laffy Taffies, Jolly Ranchers, candy, that stuff is not optimal. It's suboptimal. And if we're here to be optimal and we want to play at the next level, a better choice for parents that is going to help your kid, or if you're an athlete listening, go with the 100% fruit bar, go with dried fruit, go with grapes, watermelon. Watermelon is also hydrating. It contains citrulline, which will also help with muscle recovery and muscle soreness. Those are better choices. And so we actually consume some of those things. Our coaches they gave us some insight cross country, bananas. We did our best. We would go to fast food after. I never would eat. I would always pack my own lunch. And I get it. Again, I'm not here to judge. I know that it's about quick and convenient. So on my website too, we do have how to eat out, making good choices, choose grilled, not fried, get the fruit cup instead of chips or fries. There are ways to still be successful. But I would say that if you, as a parent or as an athlete, if you want to feel your best, you want to perform your best, you really should be packing fruit, Greek yogurt and berries. That is one of the best pre-workouts, 2 hours out to have, because it's going to give you carbs, protein, nutrients. And I always like to remind people, if you have a longer workout, you may need to also bring fuel to add in during your training. So honey, I love honey, maple syrup. You can also do that 100% fruit bar. If you have a 2-hour training session, which most athletes do, if you're trying to compete in college, you need to think in terms of adding in extra carbs, right? Because that's the fuel that's going to get you to your destination and not stall out, right? Fuel up to avoid stalling out.
I think a lot of parents and athletes might know they want to do this. They just don't know if their kid, 15, 16-year-old kid, thinking back to myself, is capable of doing that. How do you preach discipline to these kids when all of their teammates are going to McDonald's, after a game and grabbing burgers, and maybe they're the kid like you coming with a fruit snack or like a protein shake? But how do you get that across and help kids stay disciplined in, the nutrition world?
I love that, Jean. Yes, the pain of discipline is far less than the pain of regret. And it's actually a tattoo I have on the side of my body. I see it every day, but I loved it ever since I was a kid. So I used to run laps around our house as a child. It was a way for me to cope with the stress and the things that were going on with my parents' divorce. And just, I felt so good when I would discipline myself to do something hard, because it actually gave me a release and it made me feel better about myself and it gave me confidence. So I find that doing hard things every single day, whether it's trying something new, talking to a stranger, disciplining yourself to do a workout and being consistent when you don't feel like it, those are the days that champions are built. And so when I'm speaking to a kid, a family, a parent, I ask them point blank, what do you want? And they say, well, Miss Wendi, I want to play in college. I want to get that D1 scholarship. And I say, okay, awesome, Tim. Timmy, if you want to play at the next level, these are the things that are required of you. Are you willing to do them? And it's like, well, that seems like a lot of work. Absolutely. It is a lot of work, but you don't think that playing at the D1 level is going to be a lot of work. You don't think that there's other disciplined athletes that had to do these same things to get there. It's a willingness and ability at that point. So you're either going to discipline yourself to do these things to be successful, or you are going to live with that pain of regret every single day, knowing you could have done it, but you didn't because you didn't want to do the work. And so I've shared a lot of stories on my own personal journey about how just those trials and tribulations, that builds discipline, that grit, because it feels so good when you accomplish something that was so hard or that people said you couldn't do. That discipline gives you that momentum to continue on and to fail forward. And I share with the kids too, like, hey, I started a business. I passed an RD exam. I wrote a book. I published a devotional book. I had to discipline myself daily. I didn't go on vacations. I'd wake up at 4 a.m. and work until midnight and then get up and do it the next day and on repeat. And I did it because I disciplined myself, because what I wanted was far more important to me than that pain of going through the process. The process is just as important as the outcome. And it's empowering when these kids hear that. They're like, oh, wow, okay. And so relating it back to what they want, if you create the why and you connect and you say, you want to be a D1 pitcher, you want to be your best, these are the things that you need to do. And if you're willing to do them, there's no guarantees. But if you don't do them, there is a guarantee that you will have regret.
I love that. That final piece there is the biggest thing. There is no guarantee. But if you don't do it, you're 100% going to regret not going forward with it. Pivoting a little bit, but it's been kind of on my mind because when Matt and I were athletes, we both played college basketball together. I remember some big AAU tournaments that I had in high school, and a big thing was trying to stay hydrated, like during the games. We'd have 5-6 games a day in Florida, like the national basketball tournament, but it was so hard to do that as an athlete. Like you're dropping weight probably like on the day. What's a message to athletes, maybe not before or after, but like literally during the game? Because for me and Matt, I remember the motto was always grab a Gatorade, get some sugar, and that's really it. But
Skittles.
do you have Skittles exactly? Do you have like a more modern approach? Like, what should athletes bring for the bench to grab when the fourth quarter comes, their legs are tired? Like, obviously, maybe mentality's a part of that too. But like, what can they do nutrition wise to help them overcome tiredness during a game?
Yeah, I love that, Gina, Matt. It's great. We all have our experiences, and I think there's a lot of misconceptions. And so going back to the science about hydration, it really is about the days and hours leading up to the game. And so I have halftime snacks. I have all of these things and resources. It really is individualized because some kids sweat more than others. Training conditions, how much you're eating, that matters too from a digestion standpoint. And so what I would recommend, number one, is in the 48 hours leading up to your game, you should be drinking additional fluid. You should be weighing in before and after training for every pound loss, 16 to 24 ounces of fluid. But it's not just about water, right? It's minerals, your potassium, your magnesium, your sodium. And the beautiful thing that if you pack fruit like watermelon, grapes, orange slices, and have those at halftime, those also provide minerals for you. And if you salt your watermelon, that's what I have our athletes do. And that will absolutely prevent, well, I shouldn't say prevent, we can never fully prevent, but reduce the risk of muscle cramping and injury. So that's a way to jumpstart on your hydration. But I would also say, I actually have a 3 tips to avoid muscle cramping on game day, because it's notorious for football athletes too here in the South. And it's actually carbohydrates, and it's a neuromuscular response. Foam rolling, making sure that you're also stretching. Mobility work is vital, right? Because often that muscle is not just cramping because of lack of minerals or even carbs. It's simply a neurological thing too. So if you go back and you do your foam rolling, that can actually help. So that's a blog that people can look up. But I would recommend, again, 48 hours, you're adding in an additional 24 ounces of fluid, salting your watermelon. You can also do, like I said, the electrolyte. You could do half of this during the first half and then the other half at the second, but plan to have some carbs and sodium at your bench, and you can pack that. And what I would say too, Gene and Matt, is this is a mistake that a lot of people make as they try new foods on game day. They're like, okay, write that down. I saw that pro athlete do that or whatever it is. Then they do it. They get sick. They throw up. Never try new things on game day, let alone foods. Always practice and experiment with these things on a practice day, just so then you know, right? And leave nothing up to chance, so that you have the confidence that, hey, I know that I had the proper meals and snacks leading up. My hydration is accounted for. I have my snacks for bench. I also have my recovery nutrition in place. You're set to go, and it just works like a well-ironed machine.
The one question I had too was, and we kind of touched on it earlier with eating healthy if you're trying to gain weight. Also, I've seen it the other way. G and I, played in college, high school, where your coach may say, oh, I need you to get in better shape, or I need you to lose 10 pounds to play this position or something. And I know from high school and even college, I've seen it where athletes say, okay, well, I'm just going to skip a meal, which I assume is not a good idea. What advice do you give to an athlete or someone you're working with that's like, well, I want to lose weight, but I want to do it in a healthy way?
Mm-hmm. Great question. So I go back to keeping in mind that if you want to lose weight, you want to be successful as an athlete. If you cut your calories too low, you're also going to be cutting your energy. You're going to be cutting into your lean mass. So I wouldn't recommend it. And I always go back to, hey, I've lifted, being a cross country runner, lighter is faster, all those things. Fortunately, we had awesome coaches who taught us, at least the value of, hey, you need to eat to fuel your body. And what I go back to is protein and produce. If we want to lose weight, specifically for wrestlers out there too, never cutting weight. If you give yourself sufficient time and planning, you can successfully improve your body composition. You can reduce body fat, maintain your lean mass, or even build a little bit of muscle along the way if you are eating the appropriate amount of protein, carbohydrates, and healthy fats according to your energy levels and your needs. And that's going to look different for every athlete. So I get this a lot from strength coaches, and they'll say, hey, we need this kid to lose 10 pounds, in 5 weeks. And it's like, what's the point here? Isn't he an athlete? Isn't he going to perform? So if we're here to cut weight, like, this is not bodybuilding. He's not, why does the weight matter? Whatever weight he is, right? We need to figure out his conditioning. So what if your athlete actually performs better maintaining his weight, but changing the way that he eats, and we replace some of the ultra processed foods with high quality proteins like eggs, beef, chicken, steak. We consume the carbs around training, right? Fuel for the work required. He improves his body composition. Say the scale doesn't move, but we do a DEXA scan, which is what we recommend to our athletes. We see that his body fat has come down, but he has built lean mass and the weight did not move, but he lost the bad weight. Now he's a better athlete. He has more power. He has better endurance. I like to approach it from an individualized standpoint. And so obviously, there's a couple I won't name, but there's a few football players I've seen that are they're paying the fee right now for not losing the weight, not being conditioned. If they knew that they had time to get ready to prepare for camp, they did not eat and fuel wisely. And so just my recommendation is you can, just like gaining weight, 300 to 500 calorie deficit or surplus to achieve that 1 pound gain or 1 pound loss. Keeping a food log and then understanding where you're at from a nutrition standpoint. So if somebody's eating less than 100 grams of protein and they're trying to lose weight, that's one of the first places we go is, hey, you should actually be consuming 1.6 to 2 grams per kilogram of body weight per day of protein. These are the best protein sources that are lean, specifically having them do a little bit less carbohydrates, titrating their fat. So as I'm talking, I'm sure people listening like, whoa, that's why it's important to work with a registered dietitian, because we're going to remove the guesswork so you can show up. Your performance should not be compromised. I'm not against weight loss. We help athletes do it all the time, but there has to be a strategy so that the performance, the recovery, the mental health, your bones and muscle do not suffer the consequences later in life, like many wrestlers, many dancers, even gymnasts. Eating disorders wreak havoc on your hormones later in life. They affect fertility, and we're an athlete second, right? You're a human first. Someday you're going to be a wife. You're going to be a father. You need to be thinking about that too. And I just really discourage anybody from trying to cut calories or put them in a situation of disordered eating, because it will destroy your life and your future.
That's such a good point. I think too, there's just not enough emphasis on it still, that people need, like a lot of these teams and colleges need to hire someone like you, because, like I just said, and I've heard that. I've had people tell me in high school, well, you need to put on weight. So as a high school kid, I have no idea, all right, what does that mean? I just eat whatever I want. I go to McDonald's, I do this. And like, when I was a kid, I look back, I'm like, why was I doing that? But, having more guidance, and I think coaches even, because I don't think they have the expertise all the time of like what you should be eating or not eating. They have expertise in their particular sport. So this is all like great stuff that I think our audience is going to love.
I got to tell you a quick story, Wendi. Matt and I play in college sports. We used to just grind our gears about this. Our college coach would take us to a heavy Italian restaurant like an hour and a half before every game. And we tried to tell him, like, hey, man, it's 2016. Like, we know this is not good. But he's like, just stock up on pasta and red sauce. And we'd all be sleeping during warm-up.
And ice cream.
I wish you were our nutritionist for our team. You probably would have made the Final Four at that point. So.
Oh, that's I love that. But at the same time, I'm just, first off, thank you for sharing that. I love that. Let's actually quick talk about that, because I get this question a lot from parents and coaches, like, well, where should we feed our kids? Like, what should we be doing? And so I'm not against pasta. Carbohydrates fuel muscle and brain, but what we say too is drizzle, don't drench. So if you want to use a little Alfredo or red sauce, perfect, that's fine. But 4 hours out and portions matter, and you need to have a little lean protein. And so I love what you said about falling asleep, because your nutrition should work for you, not against you. And I think that's something that, a lot of, coaches, they struggle with too. It's like, well, food is food. It doesn't matter. Calories are calories. I think even, I love Nick Saban. But he's like, you just got to eat calories, just eat whatever. And it's like, no, it matters. Right. What you eat, the energy from ice cream versus a Greek yogurt parfait, very different. And the aftermath of that. And so, I just empower parents too, that take heed to that advice. Like, if you're in charge of putting together meals and snacks and you're on a budget, hey, I get it. Turkey sandwiches, grapes, pretzels, applesauce, boom. Very cost-effective meal to have 3 hours before a game. If you're going to get something catered in, really try to avoid the high-fat, heavy foods because it really will make the athlete feel heavy. It will be difficult to digest. Even fats, peanut butter and jelly sandwiches before games or training, fat takes longer to digest. It derails your performance because blood flow is going to the stomach to digest instead of your extremity. So that's also something that people don't know a lot about. I would recommend supplementing PB2 powder instead if you're wanting that PB, taste without the fat. But those pre-game meals and even on the road too, you can pack coolers. I'm the master of this. Like as a kid, again, my sister and I, my brother, we were doing the grocery shopping as kids. My dad would say, "Hey, here's the checkbook." And being from a small town, people knew us, but we would go grocery shopping and get our own foods. And it was so great too, because I learned, just at the grocery store too, like that grapes, those were going to be good things that made me feel good. I empower people, Matt and Jean, these things that I'm talking about, these work, but as always, some foods work incredibly well for others. And then certain foods, they just don't digest well. I do believe there was something about a myth and fact. And I want to point this out because before I started my private practice, I did work for the Dairy Council and I loved it. It was so much fun educating parents, student athletes, groups, teams across the state of Michigan about how beneficial dairy is. And I'm not talking about Yoplait. I'm talking about good, high quality, plain Greek yogurt, or even milk that can be incredibly beneficial and cost effective. So a myth is that it's so annoying, and I love to debunk it immediately, is, well, chocolate milk is bad. It has too much sugar. Chocolate milk is not the problem. It is the Takis and the ice cream from some random, fake frozen yogurt shop with all the candy toppings. Like that's not dairy, right? That's not real. And so chocolate milk contains the 3-to-1 carbohydrate to protein ratio that is scientifically proven to support muscle growth, muscle recovery, in replenishing glycogen stores. So if you do a chocolate milk paired with banana and, Greek yogurt, mix in some creatine monohydrate post-training, post-game, that's a little something that I recommend to a lot of people. And it has helped. I've gotten countless emails over the years from people that have read my posts about chocolate milk after games. They're like, this is great. We don't have a lot of money, but the chocolate milk has been helpful and it's helped our kids. They feel better because I've also worked, during my master's, I was at the University of Wisconsin Stout, and the coaches would have the athletes drink soda. They were drinking Mountain Dew after games, on the bus, hockey, not to throw y'all under the bus up there, but, that was just like, oh, and the AT would tell me about it. I was like, but you guys can pack, like these are things that, right. And so anyway, there are better choices. Chocolate milk is not to be demonized. Dairy is not the enemy. In fact, there's a lot of data and evidence to support dairy decreases cardiovascular disease. It decreases inflammation. It's a high quality protein. It contains leucine. So you should not be against chocolate milk because of the sugar content, because for every hour of activity, right, kids need 30 to 60 grams. And most chocolate milks are going to fall within that. And most kids are reaching for something far worse than chocolate milk that contains protein. So chocolate milk, dairy is not the problem. It's the solution, I would say, to a lot of our budget issues, nutrient deficiencies, and just flat out convenience. And let's be honest, chocolate milk is delicious.
That's an amazing tip. I was going to say maybe one of my last questions, Wendi. So you kind of touched on parents there who maybe don't have a huge budget. Maybe same thing for parents and especially athletes who they're not college players. They don't have a nutritionist on staff. You're talking like elementary, middle school, high schoolers. The parents know nutrition is important, but they don't have the ability to hire somebody private, or again, their team doesn't have somebody. What are some like just easy practical things they can do to stay on top of this? Because again, I think all parents nowadays realize it's an issue and they want their kids to do it. But like, is it setting up like an at-home family calendar, listing out meals for the week to stay on track, or is it like going to, and again, you probably know more than us, but going to Costco or Sam's Club and like buying these healthy things in bulk? Like, what can parents do day to day to make sure that their kids stay on track with nutrition and not get off the rails?
You said it perfectly, buying in bulk. That's what I recommend. It doesn't matter what grocery store you go to. Always make a list, number one, and we have free grocery lists. You can go to the website, download them, but make a list and stick to your list. And I would recommend not shying away from frozen fruits and vegetables. They actually lock in more nutrient value than those that are exposed to light, heat, and oxygen. So the fresh stuff actually costs more versus the frozen. So I keep frozen fruits, veggies on hand for smoothies. You can make smoothie bags with your Greek yogurt and milk. And again, if you buy in bulk, you're able to save a lot of money and make a very low cost, high protein smoothie that contains spinach and berries and high quality nutrients for less than $5, right? Because you bought in bulk versus going to like a smoothie place, you're going to pay $17
And
for
it's
a
all sugar.
smoothie. It's absolutely insane, right? And so, buying in bulk, making the list, but also beans, buying meat on sale as well. You can get grass fed still on sale. There are plenty of sales out there. Keep an eye on that, but doing the meal prep. Another part of the discipline is people say, well, I don't want to do the meal prep. Okay. Well, if you have a budget and you have the ability to actually save money, but you're unwilling to do it because you don't want to meal prep, like that's a you problem. Like you need to figure that out. So anyway, I just share that because a lot of parents say they don't have time. So everything costs something. You're either spending money on buying for convenience, pre-cut, pre-portioned, pre-prepared meals, or you're spending your time and saving your dollar by putting together meals and snacks, pretzels and hummus, carrots, grilled chicken sandwiches. You can grill up a bunch of chicken breasts, put, chicken in the fridge. You can put that in wraps, salads, have those things on hand. I would say, your environment is a big part of your success. So if you don't have healthy meals and snacks in your fridge and then also healthy foods in the pantry to quickly have on hand, you're not going to make the good decision, right? And that's out of Atomic Habits. It's a good book. Everyone should read that if they haven't already.
Love that.
But I do recommend having a family calendar. I always say it's a lot of time and energy. So if you have a big family, go to the grocery store one day and then do the meal prep the next day. Don't try to do it all in one day. You'll be in the kitchen for what feels like 6 hours. Put on a podcast. Everyone wants to listen to podcasts. Put on that podcast while you meal prep together as a family. It not only helps you be successful, but putting those meals and snacks together teaches your kids lifelong skills that they will absolutely need when they get into college. How to boil an egg. I can't tell you how many 20-year-olds in their dorms are like, Miss Wendy, I don't know how to make a sandwich. I don't know how to boil an egg. I'm not picking on them. I'm just saying that as parents, it is your job. It is our job to teach our kids so that they can be successful. And I know as parents, you want your kid to thrive, right? I'm not trying to pick on parents, but what I'm saying is that we're always on social media. You can easily watch a YouTube video if you don't know how to cook and meal prep. Roast some vegetables, roast some chicken, get some things on the grill, get these meals and snacks together. It's going to save you money. It's going to spend good quality time with your family. It's going to set your kids up for success. I learned how to do some cooking, not only through our nutrition classes, but also through my grandmother, who is like a mom to me. And so I learned that it was incredibly important to take ownership of your life. And so we talk about disciplining yourself to do the things that are required of you to get what you want. And that is something that we can all, take and apply in any facet of life. If you want to be successful, there are things that are required, sacrifices that are going to be made. And so utilize the free resources out there to put together meals and snacks. And like I said, we have my whole website is full of free tips, and you don't even have to speak to me. You don't have to pay a cent. You can learn exactly what to do to gain weight, lose weight, recover from injury, put together meals and snacks as a family, optimize recovery as a multi-sport athlete. It's all there for free if you're willing to take the time to read it and apply it.
Love that. I wish more parents will hear this message. And again, through this podcast, I hope they do. But my son is 2 years old and our other son's 8 months old. I hope by the time they play sports, I go to the ball field and the snacks are like grilled chicken and hummus and not hot dogs and water ice. I'm sure there's still going to be a lot of that. It is fun for kids, but it really does make a difference in their life if they eat well. And I think more and more parents are kind of catching on to that. So awesome for you for sharing that message.
Yeah, one thing I had no idea. You brought up about the frozen fruits and vegetables, because that was the one thing I even talked to my wife about. Eating healthy can get pretty expensive, but those little things, like I had no idea that frozen fruits and vegetables can actually hold more nutritional value than just going and picking out fresh strawberries.
Yes. Well, my grandpa's a berry farmer. And so, yes, going to a farm and picking berries, great. But grocery store,
Okay.
you're having a 2-year-old too. You guys are very busy, but you know this, right? They see too. Kids watch, they absorb everything. So if they see mom and dad being healthy, they will live out that lifestyle, and our habits in youth are carried into adulthood. So it absolutely transfers to all areas of life. And so a lot of people don't know that about the frozen. And so I would actually encourage people, often who are traveling, especially travel sports. I never keep fresh fruits and veggies. It's a waste of money. We'll end up throwing them away because I'm always traveling too. And so most families are. If you do the frozen fruits and veggies, you can put those into smoothies, and you can freeze those into smoothie cubes as well. And I actually do that with my creatine. That's a secret I don't talk about a lot. It's in our membership, but I put the creatine, the chocolate milk, blend up spinach and banana in a big blender. And then I put that into cubes, and then I add that as my ice cube for the smoothie of the fruits and vegetables. So it's an added bonus with the Greek yogurt and milk. Very good, very convenient, very simple. But you'll save thousands of dollars if you buy frozen fruits and veggies, and also canned goods. Don't be against, chickpeas. Edamame is also a great plant protein source if you're a vegan or vegetarian. And if you buy that frozen, you can roast those. And those are a great snack too, that are very tasty. And so I just want to try and give, as many free tips as possible to those parents and people, because I know life is expensive right now. You step out your door and you're going to spend $600 within the first hour. It seems like it's crazy. But one other thing too, just on the ballpark too, I want to be very clear for people. All foods fit, right? I'm not here to demonize foods, but you could have a hot dog, but also have maybe a fruit cup with it, right? It's all about balance and just making sure that, we're not here to be perfect. I think a lot of kids are so worried about being perfect. They're stressed out. They're putting their identity in their success as an athlete. And I just want to speak from personal experience. That's one of the worst things that you can do, because you can't control when you're on a team. You can't really control the win. All you can do is play your part, and knowing that at the end of the day, win or lose, did you have fun? Did you enjoy the game that you're playing, and just being an athlete and being present? Because I look back, and I even spoke to so many of our college athletes. They wish they would have soaked up those tournaments significantly more, and just being present with their teammates and having fun. It is not a job, right? Don't treat your sports as a job. You are a kid. Enjoy it. Be present and have fun with it. And win or lose, there's always another opportunity. So don't, have a 24-hour rule that I tell our athletes and people. If you lost and maybe you didn't play your best, you have 24 hours to sulk, to feel bad, to watch film, to go back and then just be like, I could have done this and I should have done that. And then once that 24 hours is over, it's on to applying what you learned from that 24 hours and then never talking about it again, because successful people don't live in the past. They live in the present and planning for the future.
I love that. It's so hard to do, but it's so true.
I know.
I know as college athletes, you want to dwell on the couple mistakes you made, and that lives with you all season, but that's not how the best athletes are made. So, honestly, Wendy, I personally learned so much from this. I'm glad we had you on for our audience, but even for my own selfish knowledge. Like the frozen fruit, I'm taking that and telling my wife right now. We buy a lot from Costco, but that's amazing, because sometimes I'm like, I just get the fresh berries. They're better, but I just save myself probably $20 a week. So I think there's a lot to learn from your messaging, and honestly, I know this is going to take off because so many people want to hear this type of thing. They just don't know where to find it or how to do it. Honestly, how to do it practically. I think that's what we kept coming back to throughout this whole interview and messages. There's so much you can do in the nutrition world, but how much can you really afford? How practical is it? I think you gave people some really good tips on, like, it's not rocket science. You don't have to spend $10,000 a week just to eat healthy or to, have your kid feeling good after games, before games. It's just discipline. And a lot of it comes down to that tattoo that you have. It's like, you're going to regret not doing it more than, actually going into it and just spending a little bit of time to get yourself where you want to be. So, yeah, I hope people hear this message, because honestly, it's so important in today's world. So thank you for coming on and sharing all these free tips. People are really going to appreciate it.
Amen. Thank you both, Matt and Jean, for having me. Nutrition is your secret weapon. It can make a good athlete great or a great athlete good, and the choice is up to you. I bless you all, and I hope to connect with folks too.